Hello, my name is Linda. To do these problems, I've put a couple of charts on the screen that you should already know, hopefully. We'll go over these very quickly and then we'll do the three problems, and I've typed the problems on the screen. The reciprocals, if you write the six trig functions in this order, the reciprocals show up really easily. I put the sine as y over r, the cosine is x over r, and you can read down the rest of the list. These bars along the side indicate the reciprocals. The sine is the reciprocal of the cosecant, y over r, r over y. The cosine and the secant are reciprocals of each other. The tangent and the cotangent are reciprocals of each other. So this little chart says quite a lot of information. Moving over to the circle over here, who is positive? These are the four quadrants. In this quadrant, all trig functions are positive, all six of them. In the second quadrant, the sine and its reciprocal, the cosecant, are positive. Everything else, that would be the cosine and its reciprocal, the tangent and its reciprocal, are negative. In the third quadrant, the tangent and the cotangent are positive. And in the fourth quadrant, the cosine and the secant, its reciprocal, are positive. Everything else is negative in those quadrants. These two pieces of information will solve these problems really, really easily. Let me show you how this works. We're going to start with number one, and we're going to draw a circle and put an XY axis on it and identify the angle. All right, it says that the angle is in quadrant 2. So we can draw a line in quadrant 2, and it doesn't have to be in any particular place. It just has to be in that quadrant. Drop a vertical down to the x-axis, and there's your triangle. Here's your angle right here. Your cotangent, this is all information that's given, is negative 3 over 4. Now, the cotangent is x over y. And the x value in this quadrant is negative. The y value is positive. So the minus sign goes with the x. And that makes sense in this drawing. The x value is negative 3. Negative 3. And the y value is positive 4. This is not a unit circle. It doesn't matter. And the Pythagorean theorem will easily give us that the radius of this circle is 5. Now, with that piece of information, you're ready to answer the question. Find the cosine of that angle. The cosine is by definition x over r. The x value is negative 3. The r value is the radius, 5. And your answer to the question is negative 3/5. And that one is done. Let's go over to the second one. We are going to draw a circle and put the XY axis on it. And find out where this angle is that they're talking about. This says that the tangent of the angle is less than 0. So the tangent is negative. So where would that be? Well, in the first quadrant, everything's positive. In the second quadrant, the tangent is negative. The tangent is positive in the third quadrant and negative in the fourth. So it's either got to be the second or the fourth. We don't know which yet. So we'll go back to the sine of A is 3/5. Is it positive in the second, or is it positive in the fourth? The sine is positive in the second quadrant. The tangent is negative in the second quadrant. So we know that once again, this question is asking for something in the second quadrant. So we're just going to draw a triangle in the second quadrant and put the values on it. The sine is 3/5. So The sine is the y value over the r value. So this is the y value, it's 3. And this is the r value, it's 5. And this looks very similar to the last triangle, except it's turned around a little bit. The Pythagorean theorem will give us this horizontal line right here, which will be 4. And you can see that because it's to the left of the origin, it's actually negative 4. Now we're ready to answer the question. Find the secant of A. Well, if you look in your chart, the secant is the reciprocal of the cosine. And the cosine is x over r. So the secant is r over x. The r is the radius, it's 5. And the x value is negative 4. And you can put your minus sign either out front, on top, or on the bottom. But your answer is negative 5/4. An interesting thing that you might want to make a mental note of is that secants and cosecants are always numbers that are larger than 1. Their absolute values are always larger than 1. That's why you have a fraction that is top-heavy. All right, let's go to the third one. The third one, we're going to draw a circle. We're going to put an XY axis on it. And this time, it says that the secant is 3. The secant is r over x. Well, it's the reciprocal of the cosine. So if the secant is 3, then the cosine is 3 upside down, 1/3. So the cosine is positive in the first quadrant and the fourth quadrant. The cosine is positive. This says that the sine is negative. The sine is negative in the fourth quadrant and the third quadrant. So where do those two things overlap? We want the sine to be negative and we want the secant to be positive. So this is going to go in the fourth quadrant. And we're going to draw a triangle there in the fourth quadrant. Now, the secant is 3, and that's the reciprocal of the cosine. So the cosine is 1/3. And I'm going to put a 1 here and a 3 on the hypotenuse. Okay, now doing the Pythagorean theorem, we have 1 squared plus, I'll call it y squared, equals 3 squared. So y squared, 1 plus y squared, is equal to 9. Y squared is equal to 8. So y will be the square root of 8, which is the same as 2 times the square root of 2. Now, that goes right there. 2 times the square root of 2. The question is asking you to find the cotangent. The cotangent is the x value over the y value. The x value is 1. The y value is 2 square root of 2. And that is an answer. Now I say an answer because we don't like leaving the radical in the denominator, so we're going to play a cute trick on it and multiply. This is called rationalizing. Multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2, and multiplying straight across, your answer is the square root of 2 over, now, square root of 2 times square root of 2 is the square root of 4, which is 2, times 2 is 4. And there is your answer, which can also be written as 1/4 times the square root of 2. Both of these would be acceptable answers in most classrooms. And that is all 3 of the questions for today. Thank you.